What's up everyone? Welcome back to the Virtue Bowling Supply YouTube channel. We have another comparisons ball review today featuring Specto on the new Radical Outer Limits Pearl. As always, we have two testers. Today we have two medium rev testers, and I'll also be diving into the Specto data at the end of this video. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for an exciting new thing coming to the Virtue Bowling Supply YouTube channel. This Thursday, the 21st at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to have the head honcho from Radical, Phil Cardinelli, here, as well as our two testers, and we're going to take Q&A and discuss the new Radical Conspiracy and Outer Limits Pearl. We'll take your questions and answers. We're going to give away some prizes right here on the Virtue Bowling Supply YouTube channel. We'll hope you will join us, and we'll see you then. Now let's get back to the ball review. Okay, let's see what the testers think, and then we'll dive into the Specto data at the end. Okay, our first tester is Michael Fitzgerald. He's been in many of our videos before. He is a PBA regional player, pretty consistent player, kind of matched. He's not really rev dominant or speed dominant. He's going to be comparing to a brand new fresh Outer Limits hybrid as well as a Paragon Pearl. Let's see what he thinks.
Just got done throwing the Outer Limits Pearl for 10 shots, and I've never thrown it before, so I had no idea what to expect out of it. And it's angular. It definitely gets through. I moved my angles very steep through the fronts, got it out to the, probably about the 3 or 4 board, I would think, for it to be able to come back into the pocket, no problem with what we're bowling on over here today. So it's definitely one that is going to have a lot of pop through the back, and it's going to get through the fronts, but steeper angles are a little bit better for this one for me. So, not sure if it's the full characteristics of the ball or partially what we're bowling on today, so I had to try to find something to compare it to. So I'm going to go ahead and first compare it to the original Outer Limits. It's got the same layout, same core. The difference is the original's got a hybrid cover stock, the Pearl obviously a Pearl. I expect the original to be a little bit earlier, probably not as sharp down the lane. We're going to find out. Again, I've never thrown the original Outer Limits either, so I don't know what to expect out of it for me. Well, I tell you, I just got done throwing the original Outer Limits to compare, and it's night and day from one another. The original set up so much faster and went forward, as to where the Pearl skated a lot longer and hockey sticked hard in the back. I had to move probably about 7 or 8 boards right and get that break point just about 2 feet out or 2 boards out further to the right, just to control and get the original to sit where it needed to, as compared to the Pearl, which I was much steeper with, got it out to the break point, and it came through stronger with a much more angle through the back. So I had to compare it to something that I'm trusted and true with, and that's the Paragon Pearl. And I expect it to be probably comparable, but we're going to find out. First shot, I tried throwing the exact same line with the Paragon Pearl as I did the Outer Limits Pearl, and the Paragon Pearl actually picked up just a little bit earlier, so I actually had to move further left with it and to get it down lane. Now, of course, that opening up the angle is causing it to shut down a little bit faster than it would normally, but you can see that the Paragon Pearl picks up just a little bit sooner than the Outer Limits Pearl, making the Outer Limits Pearl great for when you really need to get through the fronts and still need to get around the corner very well. After comparing everything and throwing it for some shots, I'm going to have to rate the Outer Limits Pearl fire. It is definitely good when you got the steeper angles to get through the fronts, but you still need that break point far outside because there's too much oil in the middle of the lane for you. It's definitely going to get out and turn that corner and go through the pins just like you needed to. The people that will probably look for this ball the most are probably more your higher rev players. They're the ones that are going to get that steeper angle. If you're straighter, the ball is just going to jump on you a little bit too strong, I think. So ones that like to play steep angles to the front, you're looking for this ball.
Okay, so that's what the bowlers thought, but what does the Specto data say? Let's start off with Fitz. We can see that in the total hook and speed loss categories, all the bowling balls were quite similar. There's a couple key differences here. The first thing I'm going to start off with is the Paragon Pearl impact angle. You're going to see it's quite a bit lower here, with the impact angle being quite a bit lower than the other bowling balls, with the launch angle also being steeper than the other bowling balls, and the bowling ball not really necessarily having more speed loss or more change of direction, could be a sign that Fitz was maybe too far left with this bowling ball, or it could be a sign that it also hooks a little earlier, which forced him further left, but they did not have the continuation to be able to create the same impact angle as the other bowling balls. The other interesting difference here is the Outer Limits Pearl and the Outer Limits Hybrid. You're going to notice that they look quite similar, and I really believe that the reason this is because the Outer Limits Hybrid has quite a bit more speed, even though the RPMs are close to the same as the other shots. I think this is also why you can see on the lane graph that with the Outer Limits Hybrid, he's a little bit further right, and I think that that's why it ended up looking a little closer to the Outer Limits Pearl, because with the more ball speed with the same rev rate, you kind of end up creating that same type of Pearl effect where you create a little bit more skid with the increased ball speed with the same rev rate. What are the final takeaways for Fitz's bowling balls and the difference between these three bowling balls? I would say the Paragon Pearl is definitely changing direction the most out of all of the bowling balls, and I would also probably take a look at that Paragon Pearl and see if maybe it's starting to lose its energy or be dead as a bowling ball, or if it has more of just a unique case of not going as much left or right as maybe the Outer Limits Pearl can. All right, our next tester is Rich Kasting. He's a pro shop operator, really good player, has many honor scores. He's going to be comparing also to a fresh Outer Limits Hybrid as well as a perfect mindset. Let's see what he thinks.
My initial thought of the Outer Limits Pearl, ball's fire. Gets through the fronts pretty easy. It is pretty angular down lane. I got to throw quite a few shots with it today. Ball's looking great. Super clean through the fronts, gives you more than enough angle going through the pin deck. Very nice acceleration. Nothing bad about this ball yet. Now that we got some shots on the Outer Limits Pearl, let's step into the Hybrid and compare and see what we're at. So far in comparison, the Pearl versus the Hybrid Outer Limits, the Pearl is definitely a lot cleaner through the front part of the lane. I was a big fan of the original Outer Limits, definitely using it on more volume. Pearl is a great bowling ball for somebody that's looking for something to get through the front part of the lane, but not lack anything down lane. All right, I'm going to compare it to another ball, the Perfect Mindset. Mine has a little bit of lane shine on it. I really like the ball a lot. I know it's a lot bigger core, but let's see how they match up. After getting to throw the Perfect Mindset, that ball is just a lot stronger in general. It wants to read the lane a lot earlier due to a lot larger core and a lot stronger cover. Even with the lane shine, it was not really a great comparison, but we got some good shots to compare visually. All right, final rating, Outer Limits Pearl. I have to give this ball somewhere between meh and fire. I definitely want to throw it a little bit more and see what's out there. It's definitely going to be in my bag for when the fronts start to go away, as I am a little bit lower ball speed player. So somebody that has lower ball speed or a higher rev rate that needs help getting the ball through the front part of the lane, I think this ball is going to fit great in your arsenal.
So that's what the bowler thought, but what does the Specto data say? First off, looking at the Outer Limits Hybrid, you'll notice that it had less speed loss but more change of direction, which forced higher launch angles from Rich. And you can also see that on the lane graph, and I think this was due to the difference in speed and RPM relative to the other shots. You can see the 17.1 ball speed is quite a bit lower with the Hybrid than the other bowling balls, while his 381 average rev rate was close to the same as the other bowling balls. Often, if you become more rev dominant in this way, it's going to force your feet further left, which you can see in the lane graph, which likely is going to put him more on the oil. It'll cause the ball to slow down less, maintaining a lot more axis rotation till the end of the lane and creating more change of direction down lane. So I think if the ball speed was closer to the same with that bowling ball, he might have been further right with it, and we may have seen slightly different numbers. The more interesting takeaway here is possibly the difference for Rich between a brand new Outer Limits Pearl and a pretty used and worn Perfect Mindset. The Perfect Mindset created a lot more speed loss in the middle part of the lane at 0.8, which you can see created a lot more change of direction for that particular ball in the heads and the mids than the other bowling balls. Now that might lead you to believe, okay, well if the ball is slowing down and changing direction in the front part of the lane, it must not change as much direction in the back part of the lane, and you are correct. It is changing the least in the back part of the lane, but yet it has just as much impact angle as the other bowling balls and has more total hook. So you have a very interesting piece here in the Perfect Mindset that is showing more speed loss in the fronts, which is creating more change of direction in the fronts, which leads to less change of direction down lane, but it still has just as good of impact angle and total hook, which is quite interesting. And I know Rich likes this bowling ball a lot, that's why he's kept it in his bag for so long, and the Specto data is really showing why it is such a unique piece for him. Final takeaways for Rich is that the Outer Limits Hybrid might need some shine so it doesn't feel like he has to get so far left with it. The Outer Limits Pearl seems to be pretty flippy and strong down lane, and the Perfect Mindset is a really unique piece that seems to slow down consistently in the fronts for him, but not really plaque or lose energy in the back part of the lane.
We hope you found this video useful. As always, if you like videos like this, make sure you hit subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.